Last year, I decided that being one of those cool artists that sold their work at conventions was something I truly wanted to try out at least once before I kicked the bucket. I realized it's kind of a large upfront cost financially. Oh, who am I kidding? It's a huge, large upfront cost financially. And mentally, to start a whole business, it's also a lot to kind of wrap your head around. But I figured that even if this first show didn't go so well, I could still try again at another location where the attendees might match better with my customer base and so on and so forth. Basically, I was pretty committed to the bit at this point. I've always known that I'm an artist and I would love to make money doing my art somehow, but I didn't go to art school and I don't think I could or want to get into industry, so I think that selling at conventions is one of the only ways that I might be able to make any money at all. Also, I could open an online store in between conventions, which is something I also set up on Etsy. But as much as I enjoy packaging and shipping off my products, I was still pretty curious about how an actually in-person market might be like and go for me. I began concentrating a collection of products I could sell as a part of my art business. To start things off, this included your standard prints, acrylic charms, and glitter stickers. Eventually, I also decided to add these pens to my lineup, as well as these little cards that I planned to give away for free. I'll have to write my socials on them with each order, so at least when customers buy something, they can take some info about me with them if anyone decides to buy something from me, and that way they can follow my socials and it won't just be like a one and done experience and they won't totally forget who I am after they purchased something from me. I purchased all of my products from Grace and I'm quite happy with the quality, although the upfront cost was fairly high because I had to ship them from China and everything. So honestly speaking, getting all of this merchandise was like around $800. One of the hardest parts about this was figuring out how I could get these items to even sell. How could I create not only an atmosphere that encourages people to look around and buy from me, but also make my products actually worth buying? So for one thing, I have retail experience, but honestly, I am a pretty heavy introvert. I don't really give off like an inviting vibe, especially in real life. I have experience with retail customer service, but I feel like that only will get me so far. Like, I think it's valuable, but I don't think that it's going to make me like the best salesperson ever, you know what I mean? So ultimately for my first convention, I decided to sign up for a little local Comic-Con in a small town, kind of dip my toes in and see if this is even like feasible for me. For one thing, I knew that it'd be easier to get accepted into a show like that because, well, I had absolutely zero experience with selling at a convention artist alleys, and I've heard that when you're applying for convention artist alleys and stuff, oftentimes they like to see pictures of your booth from previous conventions, kind of like applying for a job. Like, they would like to see that you have some kind of experience under your belt. So, but in the case of this small town, I was able to just apply and immediately get in. So I decided to try this small town out, even if it was quite a drive from my actual home. Also, when I signed up for Del Rio Comic-Con, I went into it with a support group of friends that I knew were quite energetic and fun, so I knew I wouldn't have to go into this convention completely alone, and I think that they were better at selling my items than I was. Plus, the application fee itself was $70, which is less than what I typically see for other larger conventions. So Del Rio Comic-Con started on May 9th, so I had roughly half a year to compile everything I'd also need to set up my booth, as well as get any last-minute merch orders in. So I ended up buying this nail polish organizer rack to put my stickers on, which I just set up a few stickers at a time. Like, I didn't put my whole sticker stock on them, but I did put enough that customers were able to kind of self-serve and just grab whatever sticker they wanted as they came over to my booth and hand it to me, and I would sell them it. I also got these 4-inch grid wall hooks that would hopefully hold up my acrylic charms in a nice way, and I got these double-sided clear sign clips clips so I could hang up all of my signage. I also got some zip ties, which I never ended up using, and I got some tape and packaging for all of my products. I also needed to bring some post-it notes so I can write if anything sells out or any other information that changes throughout the day. So thankfully I got an entire 8-foot table to myself, which is pretty nice. I had more than enough space though. As for the products themselves, I'm bringing 38 different products in total. I know lots of artists recommend you bring a lot less variety than that, I think, but I'll let you know if bringing more ended up hurting me in the long run or if I think it was a benefit. Right now I'm expecting the Madoka Magica and maybe the Tokyo Mew Mew and Nana products to sell well. Also maybe the Chiikawa products, since Chiikawa is really popular. It'd also be nice if this Nami print that I made sold, since One Piece is also really big, but sadly apparently Nami is like one of the least liked characters in that series, so we'll have to see how she does. I considered doing this thing I've seen some other beginner artists do where they give away a free sticker for every follower / subscriber on social media they gain. Like in exchange for following them, you give them a free sticker, and maybe this still might be a good idea, but I'm not really sure. I could run out of inventory eventually this way, and I mean they might just be a dead subscriber that doesn't actually watch any of my videos. However, maybe the potential for gaining someone who watches me outweighs all of that potential negativity, so I'm still a little undecided on this business strategy. Another wild thing I'm going to try to do to attract people to my booth is I'm going to put up a little laptop that's displaying a demo for an indie fashion game I'm working on. This demo took a lot of time and effort to put together, and I'm glad that it's at least now in a place where people can play it. It honestly doesn't have much actual gameplay to it yet, it's just the dress-up portion of the game, but it still means a lot to me and took a really long time and a lot of effort. So I'm hoping it'll be able to make some people happy for just existing. Maybe they'll even find it fun to take some time to dress up a character in their own style and give them a cute outfit. So before I knew it, the day 0 had come. I packed up all of my supplies, triple checked that I had everything I needed, and started the car for a long drive south. Today we get 3 hours to set up our booth one day before the con actually starts, which is pretty nice in my opinion, honestly. I'm just hoping everything with my booth is fine overnight, and I'll have to take inventory again once the con is over. I noticed that as a lot of people were packing up to get ready for the next day, they brought these tarps that they put over their booth, and I didn't have one, so I felt a little bit uneducated on that front. So when we started setting up, I realized I forgot the hooks I was going to use to set up my charms with, so I had to resort to getting some shower hooks from Walmart in a rush, along with some label stickers so my team and potential customers could have a numerical reference. I was going into this thinking that something would go wrong, especially since it was my first show, but it still didn't feel great. I couldn't help but feel disappointed in myself for forgetting something that I thought was so crucial, but somehow we did make do without it. Something I noticed about this numerical system that I was using, like I had the number of the product next to each one so that people could just tell me the number of the product they want instead of the name of the product they want. I noticed that I think some people thought that like that number was actually the price, even though I had like my pricing listed. I feel like it was pretty much quite visible and everywhere, but I think some people still got confused because they were like looking more closely at the charm than like my signs. So they ended up thinking that like my Chiikawa charm was like $30, but it was just like number 30 on the list. So I had to like actively clarify that to people as they were walking by. And maybe I could have put my sign like a little bit lower or something because people are more likely to look down than they are to look up. So yeah, that's just something interesting that I noticed. I don't think it confused like everybody, but it wasn't like a zero amount of people. It was like definitely more than one person that got confused, I think. So anyway, by the time we were finished setting up, I was already feeling a little bit tired, honestly, and the convention hadn't even really started yet. I'm a pretty anxious person, so maybe I was bound to feel nervous like no matter what, but I've heard that your body finds it hard to distinguish between excitement and anxiety, And honestly, there wasn't really a reason to be scared. There wasn't really any pressure with this show or anything. I kind of just put like a false sense of pressure on myself for no real reason. I don't know, maybe I just felt pressure because it's like, okay, I've been working at this for like a long time now, and if I fail completely, then I'm gonna keep trying, but it feels like maybe I should give up, you know, and I feel like that's kind of like a lot on the mind. But I decided I should really just try to drink some water, calm down, and try to enjoy my first ever Artist Alley experience. So the start of the show was a little bit slow for the first hour or two. I was worried it was because something I was doing wrong, like my booth looked pretty empty since I had 2 whole tables when I only really needed 1, and there were some pros and cons to having that extra space. One positive I found was that it gave customers more room to breathe and look around at my wares. However, it also made it so some people missed parts of my booth because they didn't realize I had a whole extra table. So I guess in the end it was kind of like a neutral issue. When I got my first ever sale, I couldn't really believe it. Maybe that they were buying something out of pity, but then more customers came in, and then some more, and eventually I got to a point where I was starting to lose count in my sales record keeping, so I decided to just add up the numbers later, and Saturday went quite well for me, thankfully. I made up the cost of the booth within the first 2 hours of the con. It cost me $75 for both days. I didn't even really start to get tired until it slowed down in the final hours of the con because we were kept busy and everything was so exciting. Seeing my art make people light up with joy gave me a great sense of fulfillment and happiness, like all of my efforts had been worth it. Not counting the actual cost of the products, I made $584.76 of profit on Saturday. I was very satisfied with this number, debated even going again on Sunday. I mean, this Comic-Con was in a very small town, so I wasn't confident about getting any more sales on Sunday, and as I expected, Sunday was much more slow, but I did make some more money. Although there was a giant cockroach behind my booth at one point, I would say it was still worth it to go on Sunday. I made $140.76. I also left about 3 hours early on Sunday because I had some things to attend to, and sales had really started to slow down by the end of the day. All in all, my best sellers were my Usagi charms, which I sold 9 of, my magical Chi-Kawa pens, which I sold 18 of, my Chi-Kawa stickers, which I sold 17 of, my Maruka charm, which I sold 7 of, and my Nana charm, which I sold 6 of. So I'll be definitely ordering a restock of these items in particular. I also noticed that my Toho charms were quite popular and sold out very quickly. It was my mistake to not order a restock of them before doing this show. Maybe I would have sold more of them. I was honestly surprised at the number of Toho fans in this small town. The Chi-Kawa products did particularly well, which is kind of expected since it's so popular. Also noticed that they were universally enjoyed by all age groups and types of people. I find it to be a little funny that they did better than my other products because I spent less time on them compared to my other work, yet they had a larger payout. I felt like I had a pretty good mix of niche and more mainstream products, and it warmed my heart whenever someone got excited about seeing my booth highlight one of their niche interests. So my total profit amount for this show was $725.52, which blew my expectations out of the water. I was kind of one of the only artists there out of maybe like 4. All of the rest of them were like vendors that were like low-key reselling art in like 3D printed slop. So maybe the customer base was excited to be able to support an actual artist or something. Like maybe I offered products to them that they don't normally have access to. I expected to make maybe 1 sale all weekend, but I ended up getting 66 sales. So thank you, Del Real Comic Con. You were super nice to me and I really appreciated being a part of this event. I hope to level up my booth a bit and try to apply to more events in the future. Maybe I'll be able to get into an event in a larger city. I'm not too sure, but I'm gonna shoot for the stars. It'll be really fun. Please look forward to it. Bye, Nee!